The Short Game is listener-supported on Patreon. If you'd like to support the show and join us on our Discord, head to theshortgame.net or patreon.com/theshortgame.
Welcome back to The Short Game. This is a show about short video games, games that respect your time. I'm Raygan Kelly, and I'm joined this week by all of my awesome co-hosts.
Laura Nash.
Nate Heininger. And Shane Kelly.
And this week is Game of the Year. It's the last week of the year, more or less.
We did it.
Podcast calendar. And we did it. It's the end of 2022. We're going to be awarding things. We're going to be talking about our Game of the Year and all the superlatives, all the great games of the year.
And joining us for this episode, Al Pacino. Thank you for being here.
Al Pacino proceeds to read 20 ads for games that are not short, so we're going to skip his section. Thank you, Al.
We did cut Al Pacino's section. He was in studio with us, but it just didn't work out. So
games are too long.
Yep.
At the risk of making what's probably going to be a relatively long episode a little longer, this is only our second episode wherein we have the new segment at the top of the show that is yet nameless, where Raygan asks a vaguely gaming-related question for banter purposes. And I thought I'd go ahead and do that now.
Smooth the way this is just, you rolled this out.
I know.
That intro was just flawless.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta force it if you're trying to get good banter. That's how you get banter, is you force it.
Mm-hmm. That's what they always say.
So my question to you all: we're coming up on New Year's, and what old gaming acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind this year? What is it? What is a thing?
What is this question?
Yes, the question.
Are you asking if I've forgotten a game?
Oh no!
No! What game did I forget?
You didn't let me finish. I was doing a bit.
I think you didn't let yourself finish. All right.
What's a thing that used to be a thing in gaming that you haven't thought of in a long time, maybe even all year or longer?
It is quite hard to, on the spot, think of something you haven't thought about all year, for the record.
We haven't. I'll give you one. I feel like, and I know this is an older take, but I feel like it might be completely dead at this point. The whole like dad thing in video games seems to be kind of done. I know Ragnarok just came out, and I haven't played that, and that's still like big dad vibes. But I felt like everything was dad vibes for a little while. And didn't play a lot of indie games centered around bad or sad dads this year.
I think part of the reason I was thinking about this was that this year was the first time I've seen a big head mode in a game in a long time. With Pentiment, which was partly made me think about this. You know, big head modes have vanished from the scene, and I miss them a little. It's nice to see one poke its gigantic head out. Another that I was thinking about was that we haven't seen many games doing like other than live service games. We don't see those things where you like boot up a game and like the menu is Christmas themed because you're playing it on Christmas or other stuff like that.
Oh, where they just update the game for that moment.
Yeah, or it just has a little different thing for you depending on the calendar date on your system clock or whatever. That's a thing that I miss.
I miss mini games. I wish more games today would just drop you into just like a full size mini game. There was like tiny ounces of that in some of my favorite games of the year this year, and it was a bit of a blast from the past. The fishing in the Forgotten Lands with Kirby,
that is actually kind of full of mini games. It had the thing with the. I'm trying to remember the name of this. The mode. Big suck mode? What is that thing called?
Not what they called it.
It's big suck mode.
Big suck mode, where Kirby does a big suck on a thing. What do you call that? Shane, help me out here. You played like 100 hours of that game. What was it called?
I have, and I have no clue what you're talking about.
You know, the whole thing. Everybody. This game had a whole thing where like your mouth would go on a thing.
Mouthful mode, Raygan. That was the mouthful mode where Kirby gets his big mouth full of cars and things. Yeah,
I think each of those, the point I was trying to make with each of those felt a little bit like its own mini game because they were all different.
We've got big head mode. We've got big suck mode.
Yes, definitely trends to keep track of in 2023.
Well, never brought to mind, indeed. I guess we'll leave it there. This is our Game of the Year episode. I'm excited to talk about the star-studded list of games that we played this year. Excellent stuff. Last year we've changed our format a little bit. We actually end up sort of having a new format every year for this. We've kind of never really firmly decided
new year,
on how
new format. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, game awards are inherently kind of problematic, but they're fun to do. So we keep trying to mess around with the thing until we can find the thing that feels best for our format. So I think we've got something pretty good for you this year, though.
Yeah, I think we kind of figured it out last year, actually. So we kind of stuck with last year's mode. We used to do like ranked lists and numbering. We used to do all kinds of gamified stuff to try to like figure out what was the fourth place game of the year. Now we're kind of done with that. So what we did this year is had a little session where we all talked about our lists. And we kind of compared them, and we picked from that a single short game of the year. And then the games that we all loved and that we wanted to award in some other way, we have a list of superlatives, just like your high school yearbook. Same sort of thing we did last year. We have a few returning categories from last year, and we have some new ones. And what is returning may surprise you.
Wow.
So first, getting it out of the way, let's talk about the short game of the year. The best game of the year, I think.
Well, we think it's not just you. It is a communal decision, Raygan.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, sort of along the lines of like, this was at the top of my personal list. I know it wasn't on everybody's. I mean, it was on everybody's list. It wasn't the top of everybody's list.
Was it on the top of everyone's list?
I have a different game that was my number one, but it's...
And so did Shane, I think.
I think this game, though, was my number two, to be fair. And also, I think one of the things that we take into consideration here is like not just like our favorite game of the year, but best like short game. Like what is this show trying to celebrate? What is this show trying to highlight? And while my game, there's another game that ultimately I think was like my favorite game of the year that I put as number one. Easily, to me, this game is the game of the year for us.
Yeah. Well, sorry, enough being coy. We're talking about Immortality. Immortality from now sort of legendary game developer, director, writer, etc. Sam Barlow and his team. This is the second game from his newly named, his Half Mermaid studio. And I mean, we did 2 episodes on Immortality. It was a wild game this year. The developer of Her Story and Telling Lies, and now Immortality, I think, has surpassed all of those. It's truly an incredible game. The cinematography was great. The story, the discovery angle of like finding the secrets within the game, everything about it was just absolutely my favorite thing I played this year.
And for me, a thing I look for in Game of the Year, I can't always get it, but I like Game of the Year to be one that I recommend widely to people who don't normally play games.
Yes.
And I get to say, I threw out, I ran to the Twin Peaks channel at work and was like, everyone go play Immortality.
Yeah, it's definitely you want to suggest it to everyone, but I don't know that it's for everyone.
No,
also.
but it is for the people who love Twin Peaks.
Yes,
absolutely.
I imagine there's a fair amount of people who, in time, will bounce off of this game, and I think there was some of that going around whenever it came out. It's an incredibly unique play style, and the story is Sam Barlow at his most creative and wild. And I mean, so I've recommended it to a lot of people too, but I can see a world where people
it's a different kind of challenge than, if you're coming at this from a sort of gamery angle, like it's a different kind of challenge than a lot of people are going to be used to. But as far as being able to recommend it, it definitely helps to be able to recommend it to everybody that this is now since we recorded, this is now a game that you just get as part of your Netflix subscription if you have one of those. So, if you are recommending games to the non-gamers in your life, being able to tell them like, hey, you have Netflix, right? You can download this on your iPhone or iPad or Android device. That's a big plus. And it's also a game I think would work fine on those platforms. I hope it gets a lot of attention there. I don't know what kind of, fat stacks Sam Barlow and his team are getting from Netflix. I hope they get a lot of money, but I'm glad to see it so widely available to people because I think it's such a cool experience.
This game also, for a game that is short and like meets the kind of thing we're looking for on this show, it is a game with absolutely staggering depth. Absolutely everything in the game is working on multiple levels. The actors and actresses playing characters with then beyond that often multiple levels beneath. It establishes its own cinematic universe that plays off of tropes across all of like cinema history. So if you know someone who's a cinephile, this is 1,000% the game for them. So you'll know who this game is for. Like, and if you have the sense that this game is for them, I'm so glad it's so accessible on like Game Pass, Netflix, and everything. Like, this really is a treat, and everybody should be checking this out if it appeals to them at all.
Yep, people have been petitioning to get this released on Letterboxd. That's how much of a movie it is.
I didn't know that. Now I have to go vote on all of those movies. That's awesome.
Well,
Yes.
all three of them are on IMDb. With shoot, I can't remember the actress's name.
Maria Marcel.
Menon Gage, I think.
Yeah.
Or Marissa
Yes.
Marcel. Menon Gage is the
real woman who plays
Yeah.
Marissa Marcel is like credited as it's like on IMDb, on each film as if it was a real film, which is
That's funny.
a lot of fun.
honestly, that's good. I think she should. I hope it helps her film career. I think it would be a shame because from what I understand, your IMDb is basically your like
Resume.
your LinkedIn if you're a film actor. So
Yeah, I really hope that she was
acted the hell out
fantastic.
of it.
Yeah, I mean everyone was, but obviously she's the center of the show, and I thought that was one of the best parts of the game was her performance. It's compelling and interesting across 3 different fake movies. So
I mean, I'll also just say, like, if you dream about a game, it probably should be up for Game of the Year. So
this definitely worked its way into my subconscious for a while there. Yeah, it was when we were playing this. Obviously, we did 2 episodes on it, and for the entire like 2+ weeks that we were talking about and covering this game, it was like the only thing that I thought about the entire time. It was constantly there. So, congratulations, Immortality! Woo! You are the short game of the year. Now on to our other awards. We have some new and returning award categories, and starting it off, Laura, why don't you introduce the next one?
we're giving best puzzles to Tunic because, quite frankly, it has some of the best puzzles I've played in years. The game is a puzzle. There's puzzles in puzzles and puzzles. The collectibles are puzzles. Everything is a puzzle. Tunic is fantastic.
The manual is a puzzle.
The manual is a puzzle.
The save game system is a puzzle, sort of.
What is this game about is a puzzle. For those who haven't played, Tunic is a game where you wake up as a very Link-like fox in a little outfit, and you don't know what's going on, and you wander around the game trying to figure out the game. Everything's in a foreign language. You don't understand anything. So when I give it best puzzles, the whole world is something to explore. And we say every game is explorable. This one is truly an empty slate. You do not know what you are getting into. And I think that is just delightful. It made me play a Dark Souls-like game. That's how good the puzzles are.
Yep.
Yeah.
Specifically, I want to say The Golden Path as a puzzle is
so good.
the best puzzle I've played in years.
Yes, superlative to that one particularly. But
absolutely, yeah. And it's one of the games that like I'm most pleased and a little bit proud to have finished this year. Like I really had a wonderful time with it. Apart from the puzzles, like, Laura said, it is a Souls-like game. So it has some draw for people who like that style of gameplay, but it's also very accessible for one of those. I think it's probably the most accessible. I mean, there's probably easier Souls-likes out there, but it's one of the most accessible Souls-likes there is. And the puzzles are definitely a huge draw. So Tunic, amazing game, a little long, which is why we didn't really strongly consider it for our top slot game of the year position, because it's a little longer than we like to cover. It doesn't really, it's an amazing game. It doesn't quite as much feel like a short game, but dang, do the puzzles ever whip.
And it respects your time, but it isn't super short. So
yeah. I want to talk about one of my favorite games this year. We have created a new category, Best Choices, and we are awarding it to Citizen Sleeper. Citizen Sleeper is basically an interactive fiction game. We covered it earlier this year with I just absolutely adored Citizen Sleeper. It was a really terrific sort of narrative forward game. It's almost entirely narrative oriented. It has incredibly tough choices about like building a new life and building community and making choices about how to be in the world and how to live and how to survive under capitalism. And it has characters and situations that have just absolutely haunted me. And just really also a great fun story, good big ideas, sci-fi. I think Citizen Sleeper is one of the best games of the year. I absolutely loved it, and I am happy to award it our Best Choices category. There are specific choices in it that I absolutely dearly loved and would love to talk about, but they're all spoilers, so I will leave it to you to go back to our episode and listen to that, where we talk about some of the things that happened. But there's just so many little just story moments in this game that feel like little explosions. Like, it's awesome. So I still haven't played the DLC. Really looking forward to going back and playing that. And that might be something we do as an episode, like maybe in the coming year, because there was like, I think the third part of its 3-part additional narrative DLC that's kind of like a mini sequel, as I think all 3 parts are now out, or at least the first 2. So looking forward to going back and exploring more of that.
Yeah, I'll take the next one here. So I was not on this episode, but I did play this game. And we thought a lot of different things on how do we single out one thing from this game, a game that I think we all universally loved. And ultimately, to come down to this, we're awarding Pentiment the award of Best Writing. I think when you ultimately boil everything down about that game, what worked and what was awesome about it, it does come down to the
we
writing.
Are specifically talking about the handwriting. No other no other qualities.
Just the typographic choices, which are excellent, but also the words.
The word choices. Well,
I mean, they're fine, but have you seen the handwriting in this game?
It is great.
We are joking. It's an award for both.
It's both. It's both. Why not both? I think, to me, the writing really shines in all of the different ways that you can play your main character and all of the different choices that you have. And like for me, I played as a rapscallion, so I had all sorts of very funny and interesting choices to make that were all built around the writing. And so I think there's a lot that we've already said about this game, but best writing going to Pentiment. Congratulations, Pentiment.
I love that game.
Man, I just want to see their branching narrative diagrams. I think they must be absolutely off the wall bonkers good.
Absolutely.
I also just encompassed in writing is like the fact that this is a game with one of the most unique settings I've ever seen, and it captures a world and worldview that is our world, but also through this level of estrangement that the strange world of living in the Middle Ages with just like a totally different idea of how the world works captured in this game, wrapping in some of the important historical details, great character beats and character moments, high school writing 101, like foreshadowing and stuff, great mystery. Like it was an incredibly well-written game on every level. Like I really, really loved Pentiment, and I would encourage people to check it out. I think if I were on my own personal list, this ended up being forced down a few slots because there are some absolute incredible bangers this year. But like, this has been such a good game, such a good year for narrative games, and Pentiment coming in pretty late in the year, raised the bar yet again. It was really an astonishing game. And how often do you get games with this kind of story? Like, you never get games set in the Middle Ages about a lot of themes, but like with all these specific world details and stuff about religious debates. And
they often just steal the art and don't steal the richness of the world, and that makes a big difference to me.
I felt like I legitimately learned a lot playing this game also. Just like I felt like I kind of had a new understanding of a period of time. And I know it's fictionalized and it's not exactly what the world was like then, but I think there was some care given to recreating that time period.
Yeah, sometimes people talk about like the power of games to let you live another life, to experience a world unlike your own, and you get to experience either guys with guns or wizards or people who can jump fairly high. Like this is like a setting and type of worldview and everything that's just so different from anything else I've ever played. That was what really struck me about it.
Well, speaking of worlds unlike our own, I want to give an award to possibly the worst world ever. We're giving worst location to the Ocean of Blood on Alien Moon AT5. That is from the game Iron Lung. I loved this game. It genuinely like freaked me out in a way that I wasn't expecting, given the it was my first interaction with games from this, I think maybe a new shining short game star, David Szymanski. I don't know that we've had somebody else where we had two of their games in 1 year pop up like this on the show. And the world of Iron Lung is revolting and nihilistic and terrifying all at once. And God, I mean, there's some real scares down there, and you're not getting out. So settle in and weld the vessel shut well, and hopefully you'll survive for an hour or two.
Yeah, also my first interaction with his games, although like he's more well known for Dusk, the sort of first person shooter, which I'm excited to play, especially now that we've also played Chop Goblins and had a taste of that side of his work. But like, what an introduction! Like incredible, scary. Like, why didn't we save that for October, for when we never ever get to do a scary game?
Well, because we couldn't wait to play it, and that was honestly.
Right.
Like, we heard a lot of folks, say, you play this weird game, it's under an hour, which is catnip to us. And then when we played it, we were all freaked out. The fact that in the middle of summer, we were scared in our living rooms of this game. I would never want to be here. Like, the fact that I even had to look through through the submarine camera system just to take pictures of things. Like, I hated taking pictures outside. Like, that's how bad the location is. This is by far the worst location of the year, and I don't think it's going to get topped in the future years. Creators, the gauntlet has been thrown.
Yeah, I was not on that episode, and I kind of am glad. I don't need an ocean of blood in my life right now.
Well, what do you need, Nate?
Well, it is truly an honor to give out this next award. Now, this is a new one, but I hope it's not the last time we give this one out. It's a pretty broad category, so I think some other things are going to fit into it. So this category is best 10-year-old game to come back as a remaster, but is secretly a whole new game.
The Last of Us.
No, it is Stanley Parable Deluxe Edition. What a delight this was. We talk about games that you recommend. Stanley Parable is still a game that I recommend pretty frequently to people who ask for game recommendations. I'm like, a lot of times it will start with, have you played Stanley Parable? And now there's a whole new world for Stanley Parable fans to enjoy, and new fans alike. I love what they did with the game, like calling it a deluxe edition, and then there's secretly, again, a full basically sequel to the game that is about the game inside of the game, that is a game inside of a game. It's perfect. It's so funny. It maintained its humor, brought it back, but in a slightly different way that made it feel fresh and not just like a rehash of the same thing they did 10 years ago. It was incredible and was in my probably I think top 3 games of the year, and I loved it.
It seemed impossible to do a sequel to the Stanley Parable. Just just the entire idea of like returning to this felt like it would be completely impossible. And yet they came up with like the cleverest possible way to do a sequel to this game. And it was basically perfect. I absolutely loved it. And it's also great that like now there is this modern, version of the game that you can just recommend to people. You don't have to say, go play the 10-year-old version on Steam or whatever, or like hope the console version is still listed or still works, like, or has been ported to modern systems. You just say the Stanley Parable Deluxe Edition is the version of the game to play. It will ask them when they first start up the game whether they are new to the game or whether they're like returning after having played the original Stanley Parable, and it will give them a perfect experience, even if they've never touched the game before. But it is also like functions as a sequel. It's great. It's an incredible way to do a sequel. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
So it's funny. So freaking funny.
It's so funny. It is perfect, Raygan. I mean, what more could you ask from it? It's perfect. 10 out of 10. No notes.
Yeah. Now I'm starting to question our game of the year. But no, we're not going back. We're not going back. It's close, but we're not doing that.
But what a segue. Going back.
On the short game, we cover games that are not from this year sometimes. Actually, more often than not, some years. But it's not all about 2022. Despite this being game of the year, we got to give it up to games that were not created, distributed this year. So the late to the party Best of Before award goes to Tux and Fanny, which made our springs so much weirder and more delightful. And for those who haven't played this, Tux and Fanny is a strange little game of mini games. You are exploring a world. The idea is that you are trying to get just get a soccer ball reinflated so you can play soccer, and then you go on.
That's all they want to do. They just want to play soccer.
Infinite tangents. You are bird watching. You are looking at bugs. You are playing as a cat. You are going inside an intestine. You don't know what you're going to do next, and that is the point of Tux and Fanny. And it is just an endless, structured surprise train. I really love Tux and Fanny.
Me too.
I did too. And it took me, like, this is a game that sometimes, on first play, first half hour, maybe hour, even maybe a little bit longer, I was like, what is this? What am I playing, and why am I playing it? It was cute, but it took me a little while to get into it. And by the time I finished the game, I was like, this is one of my favorite games that we've done on this show. And I was watching the stuff online and like finding the whole Tux and Fanny verse, the TFU, I suppose. It's a strange little game that I love so much.
Yeah, since we played the game for the show, I've also watched the other Tux and Fanny media. This game is sort of a companion piece to a film / I guess series of videos, sort of web native film animation that is also hilarious, featuring the same characters, similar art style, just really wild, bizarre scenarios. And that was great. But the game has also now come out in more places. When we first played it, it was only out on the Nintendo Switch and itch.io, which was a kind of a first, kind of an unusual launch strategy there, but it's out on Steam now too. I think it might have come to other consoles. I don't know off the top of my head. So it's more available if you want to check it out. And I think more people should. I don't know, I don't know if Tux and Fanny set the world on fire, but I think it's an incredible, weird, wonderful game that's just full of great ideas and little bizarre experiences. And, if you don't like what you're seeing, wait 5 minutes and you'll be seeing something totally different. It's great. So highly recommend Tux and Fanny for sure. And Best of Before award or Late to the Party award goes to Tux and Fanny.
I have one more game that I want to kind of talk about here, because really I wasn't able to be on the episode for this one, and I've regretted it a lot. The game is the Most Replayable award. Most Replayable goes to Vampire Survivors. Vampire
Of
Survivors.
course.
I know Nate has put a lot of hours in. This was at the top of Nate's list of best games. To briefly explain why I love it, because I have not had a chance to talk about it at all. I just love this game for its simplicity and the way that it manages to take things that I generally don't like collecting stuff and I don't know, just grinding, and turn it into something that feels completely new and like a completely new synthesis of game concepts. And I know it's going to be copied a billion times, probably already has been. Why was this your top game, Nate?
Well, on that point, there's a thought that this is now going to make Survivor-like games, and that this is the start of a new genre. And so I think there's a possibility that of all the games that came out this year, Vampire Survivors ends up being the most impactful of all of them.
It's so strange because it's not like it's a good game, and it's not, but it's also not like it has new ideas, but they're all just subtle tweaks on existing ones. Like nothing here, it feels like totally revolutionary or new,
right.
But it's this specific combination of ideas, the auto firing, mostly it's just like, hey, what if we did this style of thing but made you auto fire is like the big innovation here. But it's like it works on this, it's like it just hit on a perfect combination.
I think it's the incredibly concise power fantasy that comes from this game, because every game it will not go longer than a half an hour. At 30 minutes, death spawns and kills you. And outside of a funny glitch thing that you can do, there's no avoiding it. So you have exactly 30 minutes to get as powerful as you possibly can. And you get to the point at the beginning where you are incredibly squishy and you're easy to kill, and you're avoiding the bad guys, and you're trying to weave around and get your collection to get your proper weapons and level up your weapons, and you're surviving. And then 15 minutes later, you are a insane powerhouse that has
yes,
like,
assuming you survive the 15 minutes, because that was my whole experience with this game for the first couple of days I was playing it, was I can't survive more than 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, it takes a little while, and then eventually you get over that hump where, because it has a long running leveling up system to where you are actually making permanent upgrades to your survivor so that you do just become stronger. And once you reach a certain point in that game, most likely you're getting to the 30-minute cap every time, and it becomes more of like an experimentation game where you're like, oh, I've never done these weapon combos before, what is it like with that? Or they've added a ton of content since we played the game for the show.
It just had its first paid DLC, which just came out, called The Legacy of the Moonspell.
Which I haven't even touched the game in a while, but I immediately bought that DLC because it's like under $2, and I was like, I'm going to want to check that out sometime.
Yeah, so they're adding a lot more objectives, a lot more collectibles, a lot more things to try to do in these levels. But at the end of the day, it's like, I want to get in to this game, and within 15, 20 minutes of playing it, I'm destroying tens of thousands of bad guys per minute, and it's just a ton of fun. And it's we talked about recently the like multitasking game. It's a really good game for playing while maybe listening to a podcast, or watching, I guess like kind of watching a show like a lot of people like to do. It's really good. And I think the Steam Deck has helped that as well, because it is like perfect for Steam Deck.
That came out not long before the Steam Deck started arriving in people's hands. It felt sort of like kismet. They just sort of came out at the same time.
Yeah, and it kind of like it revived it for me. I'd been kind of done playing it. I played it a ton back when we covered it, and then I got my Steam Deck over the summer and was like, well, what should I play on Steam Deck? And I think the first thing I played on my Steam Deck was Vampire Survivors, because it was perfect. So
it was.
I love this game.
The last thing I want to say about the game is I think the main thing that's responsible for its success is the fact that it is just this rare combination of mechanically simple and mechanically deep. You know, the depth of the mechanical interactions in the game are incredible. And if you watch different people playing the game or talk about it with friends, almost no two people approach the game with the same build or strategy. People really just, it's an incredible playground. And to do that in a game that that applies so much simplicity, you know, the sprites are simple, the controls are simple, everything about the game is simple. And as that kind of expands out and you explore the depth that is kind of hidden behind that simplicity, that is an incredible feeling. And that's what I really loved about the game. I don't know if that is something that can be repeated. It feels like it has to be very, very carefully designed. I don't know. Maybe these. So we'll see if that turns into a new genre, like you guys were saying. Well, let's see, Nate. I had what? Let's get back to you because we have one more of these that we want to cover, and I know it's something you wanted to highlight.
This is a game I had to highlight. There's a couple of awards that I could give it, but first and foremost, best slicing and dicing goes to Slice and Dice.
Uncontested.
What a game. Another
the
award.
Only slicing and dicing game that we played this year.
I think so, and I have to give it another award too. This one, we'll see if it ever happens again. But best game to release a massive overhaul to it, like 2 hours after we finished recording our episode on it.
The most out of date and instantaneously out of date.
This game is from 2021, and so it had been out for like a year and several months before we played it. We recorded our episode. And then, like 3 hours after we got done recording,
the worst.
They see it's a sole developer. They like silently, no one knew it was coming. At least no one out just in the fan base.
We didn't know, or we wouldn't have recorded the episode that
right.
week.
They released version 2.0, which is a considerable expansion of the game and is fantastic and addresses a few of the things that we talked about on the episode. It's remarkable, our timing.
Best slicing and dicing and best troll of this podcast.
It's incredible. So, but anyway, that game is, I love the dice rolling, roguelike mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the best, like this could get best UI or best like visual representation of mechanics. This game was, in everything that it was trying to do, it was perfect. Simple, repeatable, fun, kind of funny in an interesting way, and mechanically complex. And I still play it from time to time, and I can't recommend it enough.
Awesome. Well, we have a few returning categories in our awards this year. You might remember some of these categories from last year. Some of them are returning from many years, and others are new categories we invented last year and are applying to games from this year. So I'll turn it over to Shane for the first one.
Yeah, you got it. The first category here is Best Mario. What is a Best Mario? I think you know it when you see it. Our best Mario of the year this year is Kirby from Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Wow.
Such a good Mario.
Kirby, come on down.
That's a Mario.
That's a Mario. Kirby is a small, round, pink Mario. And the best thing about this game, honestly, is how it marries both approachability
Mario's
and just with just an incredible level of
never apologize for being who you are, Nate.
Fun for all ages. This is truly a fun game. So I am very, very I wanted to get Bandana Waddle Dee onto the list here. I don't think he made it, so I will mention him here now as well. He was also very much appreciated as a secondary Mario.
Also arguably a Mario. Yeah, I really liked that game. It didn't quite make my list because I didn't play it for hundreds of hours with my child the way that you did, Shane. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land Great game this year, and the only Nintendo game on our list this year.
And I will say, when I went to ask, hey, my 7-year-old niece is getting Switch Lite, what should I give them? Just every single person in the Discord just wrote Kirby the Forgotten World, Kirby the Forgotten World. Like by the fourth, I was like, okay, I get it. I get the recommendation.
It's the right choice for a kid. It's a phenomenal game. We have an award we've given many times over the years, and that is the Dirtbag of the Year. I think, thinking back over the history of our absolutely probably the most important award we give every year, let's be honest. I think it originated with May from Night in the Woods, and I think we've had a Dirtbag of the Year every year since.
And it took a while for that dirtbag to be a human.
That's true. For context, last year's Dirtbag of the Year was the unseen Dirtbag boyfriend from Unpacking. Other notable Dirtbags of over the years, the Goose from Untitled Goose Game, probably the most embodying the spirit of the Dirtbag of the Year. We had a few nominations this year, and they all have their points as a Dirtbag.
I will nominate the first one, and that is from our most recent game of Chop Goblins.
Chop Goblins are definitely dirtbags. They have 100% dirtbag energy.
They scream around, they run around saying, "Give me the cheese," and "I want to stab.
I want to cut.
I want to cut." And I mean, what more do you need from your dirtbags? Goblin mode, it's the whole thing right now. Chop Goblins, fantastic candidate to be our Dirtbag of the Year.
Yes, but we have two other nominations for Dirtbag of the Year. I nominated Stanley from the Stanley Parable. He's not always a dirtbag. Sometimes he's just a good boy. You know, he's your first person protagonist. You don't see his face. He just sort of is. But there's a certain dirtbag nature to the way he interacts with the narrator. When the narrator gives you clean, clear instructions and asks you to do something in quite a pleasant British voice, and you do exactly the opposite thing 10 times out of 10, that, I believe, is dirtbag behavior.
The game wouldn't exist if Stanley weren't a dirtbag.
Exactly. So I nominated Stanley, but we gave it to our third nominee.
I am very proud to award Dirtbag of the Year to Ambrosio from Immortality, as played by Robert Jones, as played by Miles Santo. So thank you, Ambrosio, for just really spiraling into pure dirtbag evil.
And thank you to the costume and hair and makeup departments for making the actor who plays Ambrosio the physical embodiment of the picture. Like, when you think the word dirtbag, you see this face.
Yeah, and he just becomes more and more dirtbaggy throughout the run of obviously, it's told out of sequence, depending on how you access your clips, but you do get a really clear picture of the descent into dirtbaggery of this Catholic priest. So yeah, I think Shane said Ambrosio, and I think we all immediately nodded and said, yes, you're right.
Ambrosio.
The bro Ambrosio is the Short Games Dirtbag of the Year. Congratulations, Sam Barlow, the entire team at Half Mermaid.
Wow.
And Ambrosio himself.
Somehow rare. What a rare double win we've got here today, ladies and gentlemen. Game of the Year also has biggest dirtbag of the year within that game. Who would have seen that coming?
I know. And Ambrosio was under tough competition from within his own game.
Yeah.
There are so many dirtbags in Immortality. The fact that we all just were like, well, yeah, it's Ambrosio is telling. So
yes,
congratulations,
absolutely.
Well deserved. I'm going to intro this next one, but I would like some defense of the category repetition from my co-hosts. So we are going to re-up Best Galerius. Would folks like to explain what that is?
I would love to. We just last year covered the Forgotten City, which was a game that featured a very memorable character the character of Galerius. When you would restart the time loop in that game, you would be met by a little handsome bald fellow, a little farmer named Galerius, and essentially you would give him a to-do list of things to help you with, and he would with very few questions asked, run and take care of them for you, because I'm sure you have a reason for asking me to do these various things. So Galerius has become a symbol for us of a helpful character in a video game, someone who you could tell him to take care of anything and he will help you without asking for explanation.
More than an assistant, a Galerius.
Yes, I think what's important about a character to make them a Galerius is they have to have two important qualities. One, they have to be a totally solid bro, a good dude, a character that you like to see every time they show up on screen. Their smiling face brings you joy every time. And secondly, they have to have absolute incredible utility to the mechanics of the game. They have to be important to your ability to carry out your tasks in the game. They're not just there as a optional helper. They are integral to the mechanics.
Navi, you are not a Galerius.
Yes, Navi is not a Galerius.
It might be that first element, the smiling face, that disqualified my nomination, Bandana Waddle Dee, because Bandana Waddle Dee has no mouth and therefore does not smile.
And he must.
And the boat from Far Sail's sequel, the boat needed a lot of care and attention, and the boat needed a lot of help, and therefore the boat took more time than it helped.
Yes, we all had a lot of positive feelings towards the boat in a weird sort of projection, but it's not a Galerius because it's not a dude. And I don't mean that in a gendered way, but it had to be a solid dude.
You helped the boat more than it helped you. So.
Yeah, the little guy who gets around in Far is the Galerius to the boat.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
You are the Galerius.
But it doesn't count as a Galerius if it's you. Like the main character, the character you play can't be a Galerius by the rules of Galerium.
So who does it?
This year, I think the best I could think of for the best Galerius this year was the gun from the Entropy Center.
Here on the Short Game, we love giving awards to guns. So here we go.
So specifically, I'm talking about Astra, the Entropy Center first-person puzzle game in the sort of lineage, very much in the lineage of Portal, has a constant AI companion, a talking gun. No, this is not High on Life. We haven't played that for the show. This is a friendly talking gun that makes cute little comments as you're playing throughout the game. But she is, in my opinion, and I believe she is potentially appropriate here. I don't know. Astra, the AI that lives in your gun, is helpful. The gun is integral to every puzzle and action that you take in the game. And also just a solid little smiley-faced dude, occasionally willing to bend the rules of the Entropy Center for you when you ask, or look the other way when you do something that's against the rules, but also there to help keep you on track and occasionally point out things that will be helpful in puzzle solutions. And also just charming. You are happy to see her smiling face whenever she appears, which is most of the game. So I think congratulations, Astra, from the Entropy Center, or the gun from the Entropy Center. You are this year's Galerius of the Year.
What an honor.
We have to balance out the Dirtbag eventually, so I'm very happy with a repeat. Like, we have a Dirtbag and we have a helper.
Yes, it's the light mode Dirtbag of the Year, the antithesis. And so with that, we're about to close out our programming year. I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us for the Short Game in 2022. I can't believe that this was our podcast's I think this is our podcast's 9th year running. We're about to hit our 9-year anniversary here in the spring.
Yikes.
So I know. So I love each and every one of you. This has been a wonderful journey. 2022 was a wonderful year. And we usually close out the podcast with our wonderful outro song with the little ding, 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 ding. But this year, we are going to give one final award. So I'll play the song in the background. Nate?
That award is Most Radical Tune, and it goes to We Ain't Come to Lose from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge soundtrack.
Nice to meet you, now I'm here to beat you with full force. Mess up your facial features. Hasta la vista, I'm selling all y'all little Caesars. All y'all stuff your face with is pizza. Pizza crack like a hard-boiled egg on Easter. See these muscles on me? I could beat your teacher. I'll defeat Leonardo, y'all become the weakest. I take off all of your mass and dismantle your features. Shredder, I cross the line like a letter. Smash all of you turtles, put you back together.
Got it featuring Ghostface Killa and Raekwon the Chef.
Yes.
It is glorious. Happy New Year, end of year, everybody.
Shout out to
Yes.
the patrons.
Shout out
Discord.
to the patron. I just want to say thank you to those patrons. You make this show possible. I really appreciate it, and it's incredible that we have the support that we do.
And yes, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Short Game. You can find our show on the internet at www.theshortgame.net. You can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/theshortgame. Every one of our patrons gets access to our Discord community, which is where we talk about the show, we plan episodes. It'd be a great place if you want to chit-chat about our choices or berate us for not choosing the thing that you thought would have been the better Galerius. We'd love to have you there. And let's see, you can find our show on Twitter at _shortgame. You can find me, I'm not on Twitter anymore. You can find me on Mastodon at Raygan, Raygan, at bird.rodeo. And Shane, where can people find you?
I'm also on Twitter at 8bitshane.
Nate, where can people find you?
On Twitter at NateSTL.
And Laura, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Laura J. Nash.
And listeners, thank you all once again for joining us on this year of The Short Game.
Came to lose.